Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining us on another episode of On the Border with Sheriff Lamb, brought to you by FAIR, the Federation for American Immigration Reform. Make sure you check it out at fairus.org. I'm excited. I've got two great guests today. We got one from the civilian side and one from the law enforcement side. You're seeing them right now. One is Nikki. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate you coming on. This is Nikki Jones, and she's the president of the Voices Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to helping victims rebuild their lives after illegal alien crime. Unfortunately for Nikki, she's an angel wife and a mother of two daughters that were 6 months and 2 years old when your husband was killed by somebody that was driving under the influence of alcohol or drug. Was it alcohol or drugs?
I say drinking and driving. The evidence wasn't there for the court, but the physical evidence was there.
And the guy, I know you're going to tell us a little bit about it, but the guy was illegal. But I want to first touch on your husband, Shane, Air Force veteran, killed in 2019 by an illegal alien that was driving under the influence, and numerous arrests for driving infractions from Hillsborough County and Polk counties. I want to thank you for being on. And right next to you is a great, great friend of mine. And I think really you can make a strong case, one of the best sheriffs in this country. That's my good friend, Sheriff Wayne Ivey from Brevard County. He's been the sheriff there since 2013. Brevard County, if you don't know, that's Cocoa Beach. It's the home of the Kennedy Space Center, Port Canaveral, just outside of Orlando. He has nearly 45 years. You look too young for this, Sheriff. 45 years of law enforcement experience, not just as the sheriff, but in the FLDE, Florida, right?
Yeah, FDLE, Florida Department of Law Enforcement. Yes. Yeah. And, Mark, great to be on here with you, buddy. You're one of those great sheriffs. I love what you're doing now, and always enjoyed working with you. I've been out to Arizona with you, down to the border a couple times there, and we see the impacts that immigration's having, not just on the counties and states that are on the border, but across the country. And, Nikki's unfortunately an example of that, how it devastated her family, and it just continues.
Well, thank you, Wayne, and we appreciate you being on here with Nikki. And I want to get to Nikki. I want to come back and Sheriff hit on some of the things you just talked about. I want to talk to Nikki first. I mean, I think a lot of times people forget the face of illegal alien crime, and they want to diminish it and say, well, illegals don't commit as many crimes. And I just really feel like that's so disingenuous and such a slap in the face to the families of people who lost loved ones to people that were in this country illegally. Can you just tell us a little bit about your personal experience and what you've gone through as a family?
Yes, it's been a very long journey. It all started, obviously, when the night my husband was killed. And then the day after is when I found out a lot more of the details. When another sheriff friend of mine actually realized the person was illegally here and called my homicide detective to ask why he had a bond and not on ICE hold. So my homicide detective called the jail and got the ICE hold placed the next day. So he ultimately almost got let out again. And this is after 3 high-risk traffic violations. The state of Florida back in 2013 even allowed him to go to DUI school after his first conviction. So there was like this huge revolving door. And this was before the Biden crisis. Okay. So we already had problems in the nation that were not being addressed. And then it became a crisis in the last 4 years. There's been a lot more victims in the last 4 years because of the crisis, and the families have nowhere to go. We're like, where do we find help at? I contacted every resource in my state, in my county, and I could not find anything to help me as a lone mom with 2 babies and a house. So it was basically sink or swim. And it's still kind of like that 5 years later, but I'm doing much better.
Well, I can tell you, Nikki, my heart goes out to you. While it wasn't somebody illegally in this country, I actually lost a son, a 22-year-old son, an 11-month-old granddaughter. My daughter-in-law were killed by somebody driving under the influence of alcohol and drugs as well. I wanted to just throw it over to the sheriff real quick. Sheriff, I know you participate in the 287G program. And, when we listen to stories like with what Nikki has gone through, how do you view the 287G program as being impactful for stopping something like what Nikki and her husband Shane that happened to them and their two daughters?
Yeah. So, the first thing, Sheriff, that you have to look at is if you take any other crime in America, you take homicide, sexual battery, kidnapping, human trafficking, drugs that crosses state lines, local, state, and federal law enforcement work it together. They do. But for some reason, immigration was different. Local and state law enforcement officers were stopped from being able to work it. Under our current administration, President Trump and Tom Homan and that team, they've taken that off the table. The 287G program gives us the ability to once again be partners with Customs and ICE and Border Patrol in going after those that are in our country illegally. And I want to say this before we go any further in. When you look at the slap in the face that illegal immigration is to our country, you look at not only angel families like Nikki and her family, but I think you have to also look at it's a slap in the face to those that came to our country the right way, those that went through the process to get here. And then you compound that with the fact that not only are they in our country illegally, but then they violate our laws and think that they're immune to having to obey the law. Nikki faced that with her incident. I had one of my deputies that was hit head on by a drunk driver in our country illegally, shouldn't have been on the road drunk, shouldn't even have been in the country to be on the road, hit one of our deputies head on, and thankfully our deputy survived. But that's just the tip of the iceberg of the stuff we see. So the 287G program gives us the ability to get in the game. And I got to tell you, Governor DeSantis said from the very beginning, Florida is going to set the bar for other states to follow. The man doesn't play around. He got it done. He got the 287G program. All 67 sheriff's offices in the state of Florida are participants in the 287G program, and all 67 counties, because some of the sheriffs in Florida don't manage their jail. I do. I have the jail. But even the ones that are not managed by sheriffs are signed up for the WSO program as part of the 287G. So that's the difference. It allows us to get off the sideline and get in the game. And here in Brevard County, buddy, we are in the game. We're getting it done.
You've always been in the game, Sheriff, and I love that you articulated that very well. And I love what Florida's doing, because Florida, Governor DeSantis, all the sheriffs in Florida are leading the way in this 287G program, really pushing it out. FAIR has been big on the 287G program for many years. That's how I think you and I first came in contact, is through FAIR and the work that they're doing. Nikki, as a citizen, and you look at what the sheriffs are doing and what Governor DeSantis is doing in Florida, as not just a citizen, but as an angel wife, how does this make you feel? Does this give you some sense of, hey, at least we're moving in the right direction?
It gives me hope for the families, even locally and throughout the state, that there will be a lot less victims now that the systems are working together. Because I do know before there was that break 4 years ago when I started advocating about this, that was my biggest complaint, was why is there this communication break? So I'm happy to see that going on right now. And Florida is #1 of the nation to get it done.
And so, Sheriff, how are the sheriffs handling? Because I imagine that out of the 67, there probably was a few that didn't want to do it, or at least maybe a little bit resistant. How has it been received since the governor's implemented and since all the sheriffs have gotten on board with the 287G programs?
Yeah, so I want to go back 1 minute, Mark, and talk about FAIR's involvement, because FAIR, as you said, you and I met years ago, almost 9 years ago now, through FAIR's involvement in trying to make a difference, trying to help angel families, trying to have the resources, trying to fight and get laws on the books, or actually get the laws that were already on the books allowed to be enforced. So that's, as you said, that's how you and I met. There is a little story out there that I fell down at the White House. That's not true. Okay, all right, it is true. But hey, go big or go home, right? But to your point, the sheriffs got on board pretty quick. Where you see it sometimes is with the local police agencies, that the chief is answering to a city manager or to the mayor. But Governor DeSantis didn't leave any option. As part of the legislation that they called a special session and passed, if you're not participating in helping fix this problem, you're coming out of office. The governor has the authority to go after you and take you out. And so he left no option for anyone. And I will tell you that I was calling a lot of the sheriffs and talking to them about what this would involve, how it would be. Every one of them was on board for it. So regardless of the demographic, where Florida's got a lot of different demographics, different political views, but regardless of the demographics, everybody agrees that those that come to our country illegally broke the law to get here. And we're a law and order country, so we need to be doing it the right way and enforcing that law.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better. And I think Florida, once again, is leading the way. And I think what Governor DeSantis did was leadership, strong leadership. Look, when you have issues, it is not always easy to fix those issues. It can be painful. It hurts people's feelings. But then you look at the other side, like Nikki and her story and all these other angel families who have lost people, and yet the leadership in this country has failed families like Nikki. And so I love seeing that the governor has stepped up and leading the way, because reality is we're reaching back and pulling up those families with you.
Yeah, and Mark, you're exactly right. Governor DeSantis stepped on some toes. I mean, there was some headbutting between the governor and the House and the Senate. They all found a common ground to work from, and a place that they could do it. We had great leadership in the Senate and great leadership in the House, and the governor's office all worked together to do it. But there was some rough roads in the beginning of it, and in the end, Florida came out with a strong piece of legislation. Now, of course, you got a liberal judge down in the southern district that has kind of put a hold on some of the law, because Florida passed legislation that if you're in Florida and you're in the country illegally, you've committed a crime by just being in the state of Florida. So there's a temporary restraining order, a hold order on the law. But our Attorney General, James Uthmeyer, is going to be fighting that and working to get that back where we can enforce it as well.
Well, we appreciate all your efforts on that front. And the story, Nikki, so you understand, the story he's referring to is we're all at the White House, and it's myself and Sheriff Ivey and Sheriff Lewis from Wicomico County, Maryland, and we're walking up the steps from the White House to the building next to the White House. And the sheriff, he's a busy man, so he was on his phone, and next thing you know, we just hear a commotion and man down behind us. Sheriff Ivey went down on the stairs. And
went boom.
We didn't know what was going on, so we hurried and found cover. We went inside, and we never heard the end of how we left the man back. We left man down upstairs.
Nikki, I will tell you that, I went down pretty hard. I'm a pretty big guy, and I went down pretty hard. My chief deputy had sent me an email and a text that said, I need you to look at this right now. So as we're walking up the steps of the executive office building, I'm holding onto the rail. As I got to the door, I didn't see a need to hold on. There was no rail, actually. And there was a little block of wood at the bottom of the door, and I tripped on it, and I went down. I look up, and Sheriff Lewis and Sheriff Lamb are taking a Ussie with the Reagan portrait and left me down there. So, I screamed out, Black Hawk down. They did nothing to help me, though. They just left me.
I still feel
bad
about
left you on your own.
Yeah.
I still feel bad about that to this day. I've been trying to make it up since then.
The Secret Service watches that video every day and laughs.
Oh, I'm sure they do. If Wayne ever decides to run for governor or anything else, you're going to see the video of him tripping on that piece of wood.
But I was at the White House, though.
You were at the White House. And, to that point, Nikki, this question is kind of for both of you. I know, for a fact that the president in the first President Trump administration, he had the angel families in the White House. He had events all the time. Same with the sheriffs. The sheriff and I, we went to the White House multiple times together. As a sheriff from Arizona, I went 10 times. A couple of those were like the White House Christmas parties, but there was a seat at the table for us. Do you feel, I know for the last 4 years, that certainly wasn't the case for either the sheriffs or the angel families. Is that correct?
Correct.
Are you looking forward to getting back to President Trump embracing once again the angel families and the sheriffs in this country? First I'll go to you, Nikki, and then obviously to you, Sheriff, after that.
Yes, I actually think it's an amazing, I think they're still an organization because angel families don't have a voice. Within the nation, our voices are silenced by media. And there's this, how should I put this? Victims don't come out like they should and speak about what happened to them, their crimes, what they're going through, because there's this stigma that makes it wrong for us to talk about it because it has to do with illegal aliens. Anytime anybody hears the word illegal alien, it's like everybody shuts down. And that stigma really, really needs to stop.
Yeah, you're right. The mainstream media has done a really good job of having people tune it out, or they start throwing around terms like racist when you use the word illegal alien. But the reality is there's victims. And I was just recently, 2 weeks ago, I was here in DC. The American Border Story presented an award to the sheriffs, and in particular, Sheriff Kieran Donahue from Idaho, who's the president of the NSA, and they also presented an award to Tom Homan. But once again, we were with these angel families that I had met back under the first administration, the President Trump administration. But to your point, I saw Laken Riley's mom and dad there and sister, and then I saw Jocelyn Nungare's mom. And I made a point to say, thank you. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for letting your voice be heard. Because if the American people forget the faces of these crimes, they may want to minimize it. But if they forget the crimes against families like yours and so many other American families, then it gets lost in the shovel. So to your point, thank you and thank those other families for sharing your stories.
Yeah, when I saw them speak, I did post it on my Voices Foundation page. I thought it was amazing to see someone who lost a family member tell their story. It's very, very hard, especially with the negative stigma going on in the nation. And I'm just very, very proud of them. I wish I could meet them. I'm sure
proud. We can probably start to work on something like that. I think that would be a great opportunity to get some sheriffs and some of the families together. And I want to hear more about your voice.
I'm
going to have you tell us a little bit about your Voices Foundation. But before I have you do that, I want to ask the sheriff, what do you anticipate from this administration as it relates to sheriffs? Because I'm not aware of any sheriff that was in the White House in the last 4 years.
No, I can tell you that what I expect from President Trump, number 47's administration, is exactly what we got from 45. Past performance predicts performance. And, President Trump has demonstrated that he's not only going to be a voice for angel families, he's going to be a voice for law enforcement. And he is going to go after those that are in our country illegally. Nikki talked about oh my gosh, you used the term illegal alien. Here in the state of Florida, we don't give a crap if we hurt your little feelings. As I tell everybody, I wasn't elected to protect feelings. I was elected to protect citizens. And so, you look at the number of angel families. We're not talking about one or two. We're not talking about Nikki and a few others. We're talking about hundreds of families that have lost their loved ones, whether it was a mom, dad, spouse, child, cousin, nephew, whatever it was. it has impacted our country in a negative way and taken lives from us that should have never been taken. And then you see liberal congressional members that want to be the voice for a guy that got shipped to the exact place he should, a hardened prison. You know, it's ridiculous. The voice of people is hold on for just a second. Hey, I'm on a conference call. Yeah, you can go ahead. Sorry about that. I had one of my guys trying to get into.
You're a working man, Sheriff. We expect that.
Yeah, when you look at that, they want to be a voice for those that are in our country illegally, and they want to talk about their rights. What about the rights of those that were killed in our country by illegals? What about the rights of those that came to our country the right way? It's just insane that somebody thinks it's okay to do that. So, you know, as I said, in the state of Florida, our sheriffs, our law enforcement, we have one mission, and that is to lock your butt up if you break the law. And now under this current President Trump has shown that he's going to be a voice for law enforcement. He's going to be a voice for angel families. He's going to be a voice for right versus wrong. And that's what we've needed. The last 4 years, I'm not sure they would let a sheriff go visit the White House on a tour with other people. They would have probably thrown you out because they would probably be scared you'd investigate something while you were there. But I will tell you that President Trump has been true to his word. I mean, we went from thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands crossing our border to, I think last month was 7,000. That crossed our border, and that number will dwindle as well. And all you have to do is go down to where our good friend Mark Daniels at in Cochise County, Arizona, and you can see the materials to finish the wall. They're lying on the ground, ready to be constructed, and the past administration put a halt to it. It was already paid for, and they put a halt to it.
Sheriff, see, this is why everybody wants to work for you. This is because you are a great American and a great patriot and a great sheriff, and you want a great place to live. I'd highly recommend Brevard County and a great place to work as law enforcement. I know this man will take care of you. You're spot on everything there. And I want to just add one more to the families, the angel families, because we have these illegals that are committing crimes, killing Americans. Then we have this whole other piece, which is brought on by illegals, which is the fentanyl crisis in this country. I mean, the damage that has been wrought and wreaked on the American people in the way of crime, fentanyl, drugs. I don't have any, I'm like you, Sheriff, like my compassion level, I have compassion as humans, but for people that break the law, I side with families like Nikki. And I side with the families of those who have lost loved ones to fentanyl. That's who I side with. And I think every American should as well. And I'm so glad you called out those people that are siding with these folks that are less desirable, and then they're breaking the law on top of it. So
yeah. And then they're spending our taxpayers' dollars to go down there and make a mockery of our judicial system here so that they can go down there and get their 15 minutes of fame. Well, they're a waste.
Nikki, when you see that, what is that? How does that make you feel? Because clearly, I'm guessing you probably did not get a call from your senator, and you live in a great state, but I'm guessing you probably did not get a call from any elected officials. And meanwhile, you watch these elected officials go down to some other country to try to pick up a guy that's a documented gang member and accused of beating his wife. How does that make you feel?
Words can't describe what I feel about that. Very infuriating. And if there's a word to describe anything more than infuriating, then that would be it. To me, it's ridiculous and this is why the stigma is here for the victims, why they're being so suppressed, why when they do speak out, they're being called derogatory names, why media won't cover them, because of leaders like that.
No, very well said. And I don't know what the word is either, because we get angry seeing it. And I can't even imagine how you feel as somebody whose family has been deeply impacted by this. Can you tell us a little bit about, go ahead, Sheriff.
Well, I can tell you the word that comes to my mind is betrayed. Betrayed by your own government. And look, we can all have, difference in political opinions. I mean, that's part of democracy. But when you care more about a scumbag that came to our country illegally than you do a citizen and an angel family that lost someone because of someone coming to our country illegally, there's only one word that applies to that, and that's betrayal.
Mm-hmm. I actually love that, Sheriff, because betrayal insinuates there was a level of expectation and trust that you didn't comply. You betrayed that. And that is a deep feeling. It's actually worse than anger, because we're almost hurt to the point where we're just like a spouse who would do something that would harm your trust and what you have, your faith in them. And so I think betrayal is the right word, Sheriff. I think that's a great word to use. Nikki, can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing with the Voices Foundation?
Yes. So it all started because I started speaking publicly. I believe it was like about 4 years ago. And every time I went out in public, spoke, I did multiple press conferences and roundtable events with Governor DeSantis the last 3-4 years. And every time I went out, people would find, even though I'm under an alias on social media, they would seek me out and tell me their stories. And one day, a friend of mine had called and she said, because I would tell her about these stories. And I'm like, I just don't know what to do. Like, how do we speak when media shuts us down? I don't have a voice. The only time I have a voice is when the governor invites me to speak at his press conferences. And that's once a year. Me and her came up with the idea to create a nonprofit called the Voices Foundation, Victims of Illegals Championing Enhanced Security.
I like that.
So ultimately, we kind of do multiple things. We just launched, and actually we launched on Inauguration Day, which was not planned, but it happened. So it kind of coincides with Trump's, goals. And so the biggest goal is, because there are no resources, the families are left to sink and swim. And this person, whether they get caught or not, they have no responsibility. No person is responsible for them. They have no sponsor here that brought them in. So there's nowhere to turn. And I had to learn all this by personal experience. And so my biggest thing was to start helping these families try to get back to as much normalcy as possible as before the crime was committed. That would be even if we referred them out to another organization for a different need. I'm partnering with and speaking with a lot of the other local nonprofits. But my biggest focus is mortgage relief, medical debt, and children's scholarships when they have lost a parent to these crimes.
What a great cause.
And so that was my biggest thing, my biggest goal. And
what can we do to help?
Honestly, my biggest thing right now is just donations to try to start.
Where can people go to donate?
www.thevoicesfoundation.org.
Thevoicesfoundation.org. And I know I can't speak for the sheriff, but I'm pretty sure he'd probably be in the same boat. Whatever I can do to help too. I know Fair is willing to, we're going to try to amplify this out here on the podcast and hopefully get some people pushed to your page. But whatever we can do, because I think what you're doing is, I lost 3 kids. I lost my son, my daughter, and my granddaughter. And I just the cost of the funerals alone, not to mention leaving 2 children, in your case, leaving 2 children behind, a single mother, the costs are, and there, like you said, there is nobody to sue. They're here illegally. They don't have any money. They don't have insurance in most cases. So you're being impacted financially with no real financial recourse on the backside. So bravo to you for putting this together for those families that are losing loved ones.
Another area I'm focused on is also legislation. So I do speak with political leaders on a regular basis. We have some things we're speaking about getting in the works, trying to get victims recognized because Trump did sign back his first term. Trump did sign November 1st to be a National Remembrance Day for Americans killed by illegal aliens. So right now I'm trying to get that more recognized in the state of Florida. That's in the works right now. And all these prevention efforts, I have other stuff I'm working. My vice president also was a victim of illegal alien crime and lost her baby due to it. And that's where the Voices Foundation, Victims of Illegals, comes through. And that was also a traffic violation and killed her 38-week-old unborn baby. And she almost died. She got over 40 units of blood. She was lucky she made it to the trauma center and had to learn how to walk again. So,
these are the stories I don't think we can hear them enough as Americans to understand the impact that illegal immigration, and not just the last 4 years, for a long time has had, but it was purposeful over the last 4 years. It was intentional, and American families were left in the wake of that destruction. So thank you for what you're doing. And Sheriff, I know you had some loss recently. You lost somebody very close to you. I don't know if you want to touch on that.
Everybody that's known me for the past 6 years has known that I always have my dog Juny with me, and he passed away on March 25th, and it has been unbelievable. The show of love from our community, actually across the country, of us losing. Juny was named after a little boy that was abducted and murdered in 1991 here in our community, a little boy by the name of Juny Rios Martinez. And he carried on the legacy of Juny. And I'll tell you, Mark, you've seen me and Juny together. It's the toughest thing I've ever dealt with. And I have a new boy now. He's behind this screen back here. He's the reason I have this screen behind me, because he likes to get up in the front and try and drive. So he's a 19-month-old bloodhound that's named Saint. I named him after Saint Francis of Assisi, the patron saint of animals. But it's been tough. I want to go to something that just infuriates me. Nikki was talking about trying to help angel families with resources. It's not lost on me, and probably not lost on you, and certainly not lost on Nikki. The irony of the fact that this country spends millions and probably billions of dollars taking care of those that come to our country illegally, giving them phones, giving them flights to places, everything else. And here, we'll use Nikki for an example. Here's someone that went from being a family person to being a single mom, trying to take care of her children, trying to find a way to put them in college, trying to do everything, also balancing the grief and the loss of everything. The irony of the fact that the last administration put more emphasis on taking care of those in our country illegally than they did on taking care of those. Even in taking care of being a voice for our angel families, being a voice for those that came here the right way. I keep going back to that, but I think it's ultra important to understand that our country was built by people that did it the right way, that came here, painstakingly came here, leaving their families behind, going through the process, spending thousands of dollars to come here because they believe in this country so much. And then we bow down and cater to those that come here illegally and kill our citizens. It's just sickening. It makes me gut sick. I used to think it was my eating habits that made my blood pressure go up, but it's not. It's stuff like this that does that.
You are so right, Sheriff. And I'm glad you brought that up. We as Americans are pro-legal immigration. We want people to come to this country to make a better life for themselves. We just want you to follow the law, and anybody that cuts the line or fouls that system up, I've got no compassion for. But I do have compassion for the people that want to come here and make a better life for themselves. Two great points, Sheriff, because I watched as they paid for hotel rooms and gift cards, and meanwhile we have families that are struggling, in particular families who were affected by this that were not given any of that. I imagine you probably did not get a hotel room or gift cards or any of that, or plane tickets, did you, Nikki?
No, but I'm kind of chuckling because I did write the Biden administration about it.
Good.
Because I was very upset. and and then I had
should be.
and they wrote me back.
It's just ridiculous when people like us can't understand it because you can't apply logic to what they're doing. They are so hung up on being against Trump and against what's right that they will say anything to protect their position, even knowing that it's wrong. I mean, you look at some of the garbage that they're spewing out there about, how wrong we are and how it's evil of us to go after those that have been here in the country illegally. I mean, when we do Operation Stone Garden here in Brevard County, I put it up on Facebook. We took these 15 off today, and inevitably there'll be somebody on there that's, oh, well, those are hardworking people. You need to be going after. Listen, you broke the law to get into this country. End of story. You broke the law, you go back. You want to do it the right way, come here all day long. We will embrace you and welcome you with open arms. But when you break the law and then you come here and you break other laws and in turn put lives at risk, no, I got no compassion for you, none whatsoever.
American people want you to secure the border. They want you to finish building the wall, take those stacks of walls that are down there and finish building the wall and protect families like Nikki's and yours, Sheriff, and my family and all the American families. And I hope that anybody listening understands that when the sheriff and all the other law enforcement and sheriffs across this country go do their job, it's because we want to protect American families like Nikki's and families who did it the right way. Two great points. Well, folks, I don't want to keep you all day. You guys have been very gracious with your time, and I want to first go to you, Nikki, and tell everybody where they can again find you, and if there's anything that we can do for you.
You can find me online, www.thevoicesfoundation.org. I do have an active Facebook. Just look up the Voices Foundation. I should have got a printout so y'all could see the logo.
We'll add it into the video after. We'll add it in.
Yeah. It's a family logo. That way you guys know you're at the right spot. I'm trying to figure out X. So I do have a Voices Foundation account on X at Voices 2025. I'm trying to figure it out so it's not up to date, but that's soon where I'm going to get it back up and running and up to date.
Yeah.
And Sheriff, any last parting words?
Yeah, just a couple. You can always see some of the great stuff we do in Brevard County. Our crime rate, since I became sheriff 12 years ago, our crime rate's dropped 52% here in Brevard County.
That's great law enforcement.
Yeah, as I tell everybody, if you spit on our sidewalk, we will lock your butt up. So, you can follow us on Facebook. Go to Brevard County Sheriff's Official, and you'll see some of the crazy stuff we do. We have a lot of fun here in Brevard County. When it's appropriate, we mix humor into our stuff. When it's time to be serious, we're ultra serious. But Nikki, the last thing I would say to you is, our hearts are with you. I think I can speak for Sheriff Lamb when I say this, but if you're ever doing an event, trying to generate some resources, and you need he and I to come speak or do whatever, help set up chairs, we'll come do that for you. We'd love to help you. Love what you're doing, and I love the fact that you're a voice for those that don't always have a voice.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, I want to thank both of you, Nikki. First of all, thank you for sharing your sorry for your loss, but thank you so much for sharing your story and being a voice. And thank you for leading the Voices Foundation and giving voice to other people that have lost loved ones. And Sheriff, thank you for being one of the best sheriffs in this country and leading the way on what true leadership is and what real law enforcement is and how to hold the line and how to support your men and women. And anybody looking to get into law enforcement, I would highly recommend you put in an application at the Brevard County Sheriff's Office. No doubt this man will take care of you. And I want to thank both of you guys for just the passion you have for not only this country, but for the border and for protecting our communities and protecting American families. And thank you both for coming on today. It's been a true pleasure getting to speak with both of you.
Yes.
Well, Mark, I always love working with you, brother. So thank
I
you,
love
man.
it too. I'm gonna come out there. I'm coming out there for a family vacation in August. But if Nikki, if you want to put something together up in Brevard County, I'd love to come out there. We can do something. But I'll get together with the sheriff offline on this, and you can as well, and we'll see how we can generate some money. And then for anybody else who want to support great organizations, please come to the Federation for American Immigration Reform, doing great work. You can donate at fairus.org, and we can continue to bring you great guests like Sheriff Wayne Ivey and Nikki Jones out in Florida. So without further ado, I want to thank you guys again and thank everybody for tuning in to another episode of On the Border with Sheriff Lamb. God bless everybody.
See you, Mark.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.